Alright. Let's take on the Cloud of Darkness. After the Warriors of Dark remove her invincibility, or I don't know if it's a her. I think the Cloud of Darkness is more like an eldritch being from beyond time and space, but it takes the form of a woman with boobies. This is an amazing, amazing final battle music. Oh wow, free turn. Look at that. So, in the NES version, the only thing the Cloud of Darkness does is cast Particle Beam. So the only thing we have to do is do, I think it's 140,000 points of damage. Something like that. And let me see, you can, I'm not worried about the ninja just yet. Her attacking like that is really lucky. So we're just going to use up all of our shurikens. I wanted to save like 14 or so of them, because again, it has about 140,000 hit points, I think. I think that's what she has in this version. Alright. Go ahead and use a high potion on you. Jump. Use a elixir on yourself. And flare again. So this is what I mean right here by the ninja can solo this boss. If you have enough shurikens, I would say probably in the realm of 20 to 23, something in there, the ninja can solo this boss. Because, so I came into this fight, I had, what is it, 21 elixirs? So the ninja can basically shuriken if you equip them with 2 shields, a ribbon, a protect ring, and one of the either the white or black robe. They have the same magic defense. Then the ninja can basically take will take 600 to 700 points of damage from particle beam. So you can see he has 2,200 hit points. So my ninja can basically shuriken, shuriken, elixir, shuriken, shuriken, elixir, shuriken, shuriken, elixir, and solo the final boss. I'm not worried about Mo, and I'm not worried about Larry. Whereas we're just going to throw all of our elixirs and throw all of our shurikens. Ow. And this might take me a try or two, but I seem to be doing all right. Yep. And that was the discard and draw. I like to think it was pretty... I like to think it's pretty balanced, with the exception of a couple of stumbling blocks, which are intentionally going to be difficult. I mean, they're just always going to be difficult because... unless you roll Dragoon for Garuda, but it's basically just Garuda, right? And you can defeat Garuda without a Dragoon. At that point in the game, you will almost certainly have someone who has... You'll have some combination of red mage, white mage, black mage. And as long as you save your 2 mage slots, you can defeat Garuda. It might require you to grind up to job level 99 for those two for the 2 mages, but you can beat Garuda. And I mean, I did it with red mage, black mage, but it would probably honestly be it'd probably be pretty easy with red mage, white mage as well, because you could just, you might be able to keep the other 2 party members alive long enough for them to take care of the boss. But yeah, I don't know. It's the reason I thought about this is like, man, in the original NES version, there's not like a reason to play with a lot of the different jobs. You pretty much you want fighter and black belt. Like the first 5 jobs, they're all good, and then you get some real. Let's see, what is the scholar is kind of stinky in the NES version. The scholar is surprisingly powerful in this version if you have some way to get the enough attack items to actually do anything with, which requires either lots of grinding for drops in the fire temple. Is it the fire temple? The cave where you get the fire crystal. The bombs in there will drop bomb arms, or you could steal them as a thief. Thief is really good, although it struggles. It's amazing all the way up to the point where you go into the actual Crystal Palace, and then it struggles because its weapons can't quite keep up. What else is there? Dragoon's good. Viking is not very good. Viking is a little better in this version of the game because Viking has draw attacks is really good for several fights, and it has this passive ability where when it's in critical health, its defense and magic defense like triples or some crazy high number. So, like, yeah. Ranger's not very good in the NES version. Ranger's pretty good in this version because of, they get Barrage, which is 4 attacks, so it does a ton of damage against a single target, especially when you get job level 99. Bard is absolutely useless in the original NES version. In this version, it has really good support. for the healing song alone, it's worth using. If you want to, you can really, I'm not going to say cheese, but you can get a lot of mileage out of 2 bards, just both casting Payon every turn. Because you get to job level 9, you get job level, I don't know, 45, 50, you're restoring just 30% of your character's HP every round. And it just gets better the more HP you have. So... all of the Earth Crystal jobs are really good. All of the Wind Crystal jobs are good, although Fighter, Monk, and Red Mage have a lifespan that ends about the time you leave the floating continent. Black Mage and White Mage are good up until the Earth Crystal. What else? We got Fire Crystal, I already talked about. So we got Thief is good. Knight's good. Scholar can be good, depending on how you ration out your attack items. I think what Scholar really needed to be amazing in this game was a place to buy attack items. Pretty much the only place to get them is from, like, random encounters. I mean, you get some in boxes, but like a replenishable supply, you have to steal them. So that was... we were at 7 hours. That was another 3 hours. So yeah, right about where I said I was going to be. So this is a Final Fantasy III Pixel Remaster. I highly recommend all the Pixel Remasters. They're really good. I am kind of on the fence about Final Fantasy II for the Pixel Remaster, just because I got super into the mechanics of like the older versions, and they change a couple of things that I don't like. But it's not a bad version of the game. I still think the worst version is the NES version by 50,000 miles. So if you're going to play the game, it's either a toss-up between the PSP or the Pixel Remaster version. Depends on whether or not you really just want like the extra weapons and stuff and the Solar Rebirth stuff. If you want Solar Rebirth, load up the PSP or GBA version. They're identical. Well, not identical. The Arcane Labyrinth doesn't exist in the GBA version, but the Arcane Labyrinth is not good anyway, so I wouldn't recommend you even do that. Final Fantasy I Pixel Remaster has this really funny thing where all of the bosses in the game have the stats from the GBA version, right? But the reason they gave all the bosses in the GBA version these massive boosts is because there was this bonus content that you could do that gave you overpowered equipment. And so you don't have that. And you go into the final battle with Chaos, and he just curb stomps you because everything he does. So in the original game, everything that Chaos can do is deterministic. He has an AI script, and like every round, he will do one of two things, right? And in the Pixel Remaster version, he has this list of things, and he'll do all of them. He has an equal chance of doing all of them every round. So you can end up in this situation where he Kirages himself like 5 or 6 times in a battle, and he's got so much HP, and he hits so hard. It is hilarious. But this is probably my favorite of the Pixel Remasters, partly because we never got Final Fantasy III, and partly because it's just a really good version of the game. I think it slots in very nicely with the other 2 versions. All 3 versions are different enough from each other that all 3 are on their own worth playing. Like, in my opinion, you can't really say that about a lot of the other Final Fantasy games, right? Like all the different versions. So, like, there are redundant versions, you know? Like, if you're going to play Final Fantasy IV, in my mind, there's basically two choices. There's one of the 2D versions or the 3D version. And even the pixel remaster version of 4 is close enough to the other 2D versions of, like, the PSP version of 4 that it's like, you know, just pick whichever one you think looks better. And if you really, really want to play the bonus content, the bonus dungeons and stuff, and be able to pick your party at the end, which is a really good feature, don't get me wrong, then play the PSP version. But, like, I think that the pixel remaster version of this kind of negates the original Super Nintendo version in a lot of ways. It's like, if you're going to play that version, just play the pixel remaster. Final Fantasy V is identical. Final Fantasy V and 6 are identical to the GBA versions, with the exception of the music, the graphics, the other couple of things. There's some small gameplay differences, small gameplay bugs that they have fixed, new gameplay bugs they've introduced. But the big difference is, of course, always going to just across the board going to be the bonus content. The bonus content in 5 is not very good. The bonus content in 6 it runs the gamut from good to not good. Like, the extra espers are really fun to do because you have to do they're little side quests they put in the game. But the like the Dragon Coliseum or whatever they call it, it's whatever. It's not good. But highly recommend the pixel remasters. I kind of, like, recently Square Enix has announced a lot of, like, Final Fantasy VII stuff. I kind of would like them to do so, like, they're doing a sort of demake of Final Fantasy VII they've announced. It's going to encompass, I don't really know what it's going to encompass, but it looks like it's going to be, like, everything from Crisis Core all the way up to the end of Final Fantasy VII. So it's going to be, like, an episodic version of both of those games that are, like, strung together. And it's going to have, what was that game? There's a chibi version of Final Fantasy 15. Is it Pocket? Final Fantasy 15 Pocket? Anyway, it was mobile only, and it got released on Switch. And it got released on PC on, like, the Windows Store. But it's, like, kind of in that style. Retelling of Final Fantasy 7. I would actually pay money for a pixel remaster version of, like, 7 or 8, 9... Not 10, though. 10's boring. I don't really like Final Fantasy X. 10 is probably my least favorite Final Fantasy game. Yeah. I'm excluding, like, 11 and 14, because they're MMOs. I don't think it's fair to compare a game that will... Well, I say that never ends, but Final Fantasy XI has an end. They've stopped adding new content to that game. It's a finished story. But, you know. So, I hope you enjoyed this and these incredibly long credits. Absolutely everybody that's ever touched Final Fantasy pixel remasters. I'm not sure we need to see all the PR managers and media strategists and all that. There wasn't a whole lot of... Like, why are they even in the game? They're like, they announced the pixel remasters, and that's basically it. Then they came out. Like, the Final Fantasy account started tweeting about them. There wasn't, like, commercials for it, was there? I actually couldn't tell you. I don't watch TV. The last time I saw a Final Fantasy commercial was I was in 7th grade. They were running commercials for Final Fantasy VIII. Yep. Commercials for Final Fantasy VIII on TV. I don't think I've seen a commercial for any other Final Fantasy game ever. I learned about Final Fantasy VII from a t-shirt. Right? So I was in 6th grade, and this kid came by, and he had a t-shirt that said Final Fantasy VII, and it had the Cloud looking up at the Midgar, is he looking up at the Shinra building or a reactor? But that, like, iconic, like, he's holding his sword looking up kind of pose. And I was like, what is that? Oh, it's a game that's coming out on the PlayStation. I was like, what? Because I had heard of, like, Final Fantasy. I've played Final Fantasy 1 at that point, and I'd seen Final Fantasy 4 on the Super Nintendo. One of my babysitters had rented it once, and that's it. So Final Fantasy VII was like the first Final Fantasy game that I sat down and beat. And then Final Fantasy VII came out during my 6th grade year. So like I saw that t-shirt like at the beginning of the year, and then I asked my mother for a PlayStation and a copy of Final Fantasy VII. Got it for either my birthday or Christmas. And then, yeah. Good times. Had only had a Super Nintendo at that, a Super NES and Super Nintendo at that point. So like I was used to games like saving on the saving on the device, on the cartridge. It was a rude dude awakening, my friend, to see that you needed a memory card, because I got all the way to the end of Midgard and realized I couldn't. Like, how do you save your game? So anyway, after you complete the game, they put you back on the world map here with all of your stats and stuff. So let's talk about the job. So Onion Knight is whatever. Warrior, Monk, and Red Mage are, like I said, they're good until the end of the Floating Continent. Red Mage has a little more staying power, but I'd say its absolute limit is at the end of Saronia. White Mage and Black Mage you can have in your party, and they contribute basically all the way to the time that you get Magus and Devout. Ranger is pretty good in this version. They have Barrage. They're kind of bad in the NES version. They do have the ability to target elemental weaknesses. They get from the back row. You can put them in the back row, and they have low level like white magic in the other version, in the NES version. But overall, not super great. And as you can see, they can wear some heavy armor. Knight is pretty good. I would say Knight is like the solid like B tier in which you like compare all other melee job classes to in the game, right? Guard's pretty useful. They auto cover and they get the best armor and weapons. They have lots of, they can get lots of HP. You can see he has more HP than everybody else. Thief is really, really good. They're really bad when you first get them, but like you get to a point when you get onto the world, when you get onto the first town after you get off the Floating Continent, and you get the equipment for them, like the thief equipment, They then become really good, and they are a powerhouse from like that point until the final dungeon, at which point they just become, so like they go from C tier to A tier to S tier, and then like fall down to like a B for the end game. Scholar is, they're okay. Again, it really depends on whether or not you have the support to like get them more stuff. If you get them to job level 99 and start throwing powerful what is this? Powerful like Chocobo's Wrath, White Musks, Raven's Yawns. These ones that do intense damage. You start throwing them around, they will do... They can put out some heavy damage. They also, like, double the effect of potions, I think. Geomancers are B tier. Low B tier. Geomancy is not great. It's not bad. It's like B. It's like a B. It's like free magic damage, but it's random. And then when you get to the end of the game, around the final dungeon, the last stretch, it can't keep up. However, dual wielding bells, they can put out some decent damage. A good solid 2,500 dual wielding bells. Dragoon is really good because they can jump and avoid damage. Viking is pretty bad overall, but they do have a couple of niche situations where they're pretty good. A black belt is amazing. Probably the most damage you're going to get from a character, excluding ninja. They're a little squishy though. One of the things you got to watch for when you're using a black belt is you got to watch that. You got to watch. I'm gonna go in here because the music's quieter. You got to watch that the claws. Yeah, you gotta watch their claws, because your attack power is 2 times your job level, so, like, you go to the claws, you know, there's a point where you're going to do more damage without claws equipped, but the claws also allow you to do hit elemental weaknesses. They have claws that hit, like, wind weaknesses and stuff. Dark Knights are really good. They are a little more fragile than Knights, but they're a little more fragile than Knights, but they do a little more damage. And their special ability in this game allows them to attack everything on screen. Evokers are pretty bad. They're random summoners, basically. You cast a summon spell, and it'll either do... You have a 50-50 shot of doing a white magic effect, which is usually a status effect, or a black magic effect, which is usually a single target damage. You get them up to where they can use Titan. Both effects of Titan are a single target attack, so Titan is really good for bosses. They do have some healing, they do have some buffs, stuff like that, so they're not terrible, it's just the randomness of it. Bard's pretty good in this game, as I showed you before. Magus is really good. Devout's amazing. Sage is amazing. Summoner is okay. Ninja's really great. In all honesty, you're probably, for boss battles, better off with 3 ninjas and a Devout over a Sage. But that's the jobs. We discarded and we drew. And I'll see you guys next time on whatever I play next.